Hi everyone, I'm Tracy Mode, and today I want to do some sky studies. As a landscape painter, it's important to know how to paint skies, and having confidence in a variety of skies is very helpful. So that's what we're going to practice on today. I've got some Cerulean Blue going here on my palette. This cool palette actually I got from TJ Maxx. It's a hors d'oeuvre dish, but it's a ceramic perfect size with a, what, 6 wells here? 1, 2, 3, 4, no, 5 wells. So it's really a handy little size to have in my studio. So here we go. I'm grabbing that Cerulean Blue, like I said, and paper I'm working on is Saunders Waterford 140. And I've got it taped with artist tape to my gator board. This is how I like to work. And the Saunders Waterford that I'm using says it's white, but it's actually an off-white, which is okay. I do like both. I like white, bright white for some paintings, but this is really great for what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So first of all, I'm going to get my paper. I could spray it with this fine mist sprayer, maybe just a touch of that, and then spread that around a little bit with a clean, moist, wet brush. This is 10 Escoda Versatil. It's a rigger. You can get this on Amazon. And I'm just adding water here and there, and I can see from the sheen on the paper where I've put that water. Then I'm going to just come in with my Cerulean Blue and let that flow. I'm on a bit of an angle here, which I like to work with a little bit of an angle. It helps, the gravity helps you, pulls that paint down, so it helps spread that out a bit. So I'm going to just keep on spreading that paint around with my moist brush, drop in a little color, and let it just flow around. Now I can move my paper, tip it back and forth, tip it upside up and upside down and all around if you want to. So that's why I like this size. Actually, the size of this gator board I cut from a, I guess it's like 22 by 17 or something like that. It's not this size when you first buy it, but I cut it down because I like the smaller size. So that's going to be my little base. And if I put my paint above this little dry area, it's not going to go past that. It's just kind of settling there, which I kind of actually like. So I did that on purpose in that spot, because the sky sometimes is a little bluer in areas and lighter in other areas, depending on the day you're having. So I'm just soaking up a little of that on the bottom with a thirsty brush. Thirsty brush is simply I've rinsed it of color and dabbed off the excess moisture so it soaks in any excess paint. So I like where this is. The next thing I want to do, and this works better if you're using a paint that isn't a staining paint, and getting to know the characteristics of your paints is important. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit further. But if this is still got a sheen on it, which this does in parts, I can come in with this tissue, just a regular Kleenex tissue, and blot out some areas and lighten them and give that a cloudier look. Now the cerulean here I feel like is soaked into the paper, so if I were to use Cobalt Blue I might have a better lift than I'm getting with the cerulean, and that's just fine. You can see it's already formed a line where it's settled, but that's okay too. So I'm just gonna continue to do that in spots, and then we're going to let that dry. This next section, I'm just going to do a straight sunny sky, no clouds, and that's going to be what is referred to as a flat wash. I'm going to use the same brush and same color. I think I'll add a little bit of Cobalt Blue to this mix. No, you know what? I changed my mind, which is my prerogative as an artist, because I want to show you these two colors. And I'm almost out of Cerulean Blue, but I have enough for this demo. So there's my Cerulean. And then Holbein has a color called Lavendar. And the two of those together are quite lovely for skies. So I'm starting on dry paper in this little center area and coming in with my paint. Now, as long as this still has a sheen on it, I can continue coming over the top of it with color until I'm out of paint, which I am. So it's a good thing I had a small spot to paint. So those two colors make a really nice blue sky. So again, that was Lavendar by Holbein. And I believe the Cerulean Blue is also Holbein. I use Holbein Colors, Daniel Smith a lot. Sometimes I have a Winsor & Newton here and there thrown in. But for the most part, I use Daniel Smith and Holbein. And I will list a link below so you can try them out yourself. If you want to, go straight to the link and click on it and it'll take you right to the color. So see the difference in the blues? I really love this combination. So that's our cloudy summery sky. This is our straight blue, no cloud at all in the sky. And grab another paper towel. And we're gonna do a gray cloudy sky. So I want to talk about grays. You can get quite a good selection and variety of tube grays at your art supply store, but you can also mix them up with colors that you may have on your palette already. So that's what I want to show you. First, I'll show you the two tube colors that are probably the most well known. I've got Neutral Tint, Payne's Gray, and both of those are Holbein colors. So I'm going to grab a little piece of paper and show you what those look like side by side. Okay, so I've got Neutral Tint as my first, and just a diluted mixture of that. Grabbing a little extra water to dilute it even more, and we're going to just put that down. That's very diluted. Add a little bit more so maybe you can see it better. So there's my Neutral Tint. And then right next door, I'm going to put my Payne's Gray. Okay, so there's my Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray has a little more blue tone to it. Neutral Tint in the Holbein color anyway, Holbein line, is more of a violet. So I say that because, I say the brands because colors can vary from brand to brand. You don't always get the exact same tone or tint from one brand to the other. So just keep that tucked away. Anyway, okay, so the next thing I want to do is mix up several different grays from the colors that I have on my palette. And just clean that up real quick. Okay, so I'll start by talking a little bit about the color wheel. And how important it is to learn your color wheel so you know what your colors will do when they're mixed together. So if you want to get neutrals, the thing that you need to do is go to your color wheel and look at what is on the opposite side of the color wheel from each color. So I've got yellow, the opposite color is violet. When you mix those two together, you're going to get a neutral. Same goes with red and green, blue and orange. You're going to get neutrals. So you can find a wide variety of grays by mixing complementary colors together. You can also get grays if you mix two primaries and a secondary. So I've got red and blue, which gives me violet or purple. And when I mix a little bit of yellow in that, that grays that color down. I get a really great, awesome gray. So you can vary up the amounts of each of those colors and change the grays. So you have an unlimited amount of grays that you can mix just from your primary colors. You can mix yellow and blue, you're going to get green, and then you add a little red, and that's going to get a gray. You see what I'm saying? So let's see how that looks. I will start with no, that's not. I always want to call that ultramarine. It is Alizarin Crimson. So that's my Alizarin Crimson. And sticking with the idea of two primaries, I'm going to mix, that is Ultramarine Blue Deep, and that's giving me a really lovely reddish violet. So now, if I touch in a little bit of Hooker's Green, it's going to be very strong color, maybe a little bit more than that, little at a time. I'm going to come up with a real purpley gray, almost along the lines of that neutral tint. And then if you just dilute it a little bit, you get really lovely color. So like I said, you could add a little bit more red and get a redder tone, or a little bit more green and get a greener tone. But we're doing skies. I don't want green skies. Okay, and then let's see what happens when we do our Ultramarine Deep. And I'm going to mix a little bit of lemon yellow. And that is a Holbein color. It's going to give me a muted green. Add a touch more yellow to that. Get it a little sunnier. Okay, and now if I add a little touch of that alizarin to that, little touch. Alizarin is very strong. So I'm going to get a gray there as well. And again, I could add a little bit more blue. And let's just do that and see what happens. A little bit more blue. And you've got a cooler gray. And how about, let's go with lemon. So I'm going to go for orange here. And I'll just stick with the alizarin and see what kind of orange we get. Lemon has a little opacity to it, so it kind of is a little chalky. Add a little bit more, and then what is on the opposite side of the color wheel from orange, but blue. This time I'm going to take a touch of Cobalt Blue to that. And maybe a little bit more, just a touch. And then dilute it a little bit, and then you can see that's more of a warm, warm gray. Let's see what happens when I add a little bit more cobalt to that. We've got a cooler, not totally as cool as this, but it's cooler. It's more toward the green. I think I'd rather have it on the warmer side. So let's get those three colors again. And become color mixing champions. A little bit, oops, oh my goodness, that's strong. Reds are very strong, so you have to be careful when adding them. And if you get a little too much of one color, just knock it down a bit by adding its complement. So, or blue is what I did in this case, but I still got a little bit of yellow in there, so I've got a gray, a purpley gray. So look at the wide variety of colors we have just by using our primaries. So that's what we're going to do down here. We're going to do a sky that's cloudy. And if I can remember what I put with what color. So let's see. I did the blue and alizarin here. That's the danger of mixing ahead of time. I don't know what I did. So there's my ultramarine for the purple. And then we put in lemon, I think. That's what we're gonna do. I don't remember if that was what it was or not. So there's my gray. This was my orange. So it was the lemon yellow. Cobalt blue. Ooh, that's a lot of cobalt. That's a beautiful color though. And I'm going to add a little of that alizarin and gray that right down. That's a pretty gray. You can never mix the same color twice, I'll have to say that. So let's go ahead, let's see. We're going to do the blue. Up here with that lemon and get, so two different blues. I'm going to go a little bit more yellow. And then add, again, the alizarin. I think I messed up. But I still have a variety of greens. And also I want to add that either cobalt blue or ultramarine, which this one is, either one of those mixed is going to give you a gray. Okay, so let's start with those colors. We don't have a big area here, so I'm not too worried about running out. I do want to put a little bit of cerulean in the center here and maybe pull some of that into the cloudy. Okay, so same idea here. We're going to get a brush that's almost rinsed of color, got a little bit of a tint to it, and then just start slapping our color in. I think I want a little bit of blue just here and there, and gray, a little cooler gray up here. And I love this Versatil brush because it holds a lot of paint and water, and I can just spread it around really quickly. Let's go in here and do a warmer and come over here with this one. And do a little bit of spritzing. This is a really fun way to move the paint around and get some of these rainy looking clouds. And then I'm going to do the same thing with a little wadded up tissue. I'm going to come and accentuate some of the clouds. I'm just touching in a little bit while the paper's still wet. A little bit more paint. So as I add a little bit darker color, I get a little bit of depth going on. And because it's still wet, the paint is moving around and softening. I can still see a bit of a sheen, and that's how I know that I'm safe to keep adding color. Once that goes away, you need to stop and let it dry. And then I've got my Escoda here, rinsing it and really getting a lot of the water off so I can soften some of these edges without putting water into the paint on the paper. I want to avoid that because I don't want blossoms or blooms or watermark. If I want them there, I'll do it intentionally on purpose. Talk about that sometime. And how about a little extra over here? Just a little darker, maybe add some of that cerulean to it. Just very lightly grazing over the top of that. Kind of like the cerulean added in there. Finessing it. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes. So don't give up. Keep on practicing your sky studies. I think that's a little bit too dry up here. So now at this point is the time to let it dry and come back. Maybe a little softer in here. So once it dries, it's a little bit harder to lift out the color and soften these edges. So if I can do it while the paint is wet or damp, it works a little bit better. All right, so we can let this dry. All right, I let those dry enough, and they're really cute, great little studies. You could keep adding to it, keep working on it. Now that it's dry and the paint is settled into the paper, you can go over the top of it gently. So I'll do a little bit more, whoops, not in that puddle. A little bit more with just the paint that I have here. Very diluted. I want to just maybe come in and add a slight little tint in to those clouds there. Very subtle, doesn't have to be much. Just soften it out. And I could do a little bit more of the same thing down here, a little bit of stronger, kind of like that orange fringe on that. So this is a matter of finesse, getting the right softness and edges and learning about the paint to water ratio and just playing around, experimenting. It's all how you grow. You don't grow by letting your brushes sit. You grow by getting them out and practicing. And being brave, you know, some of it takes a little bit of courage when you're starting, and when you're a painter that's been around a while, it's still sometimes intimidating to have a piece of white paper sitting in front of you. But if you don't start somewhere, you're never going to go anywhere. So you could just keep doing that kind of thing. I want this to stay pretty cool up here. I don't want that warm look, so I stayed with the cooler gray here, and I'm just going to let it blend and mix around in there. Gives it just some dimension. So here's the really fun part. Once it's dried, we can take this tape off. So I have to say that I do try to reuse my tape. This is artist tape, and it doesn't come cheap, but it saves your paper from being torn when you pull it away. And let's just do that. Pull this tape away and try to preserve it. So this one is over the top. They're kind of crisscrossed together. So I'm pulling away from the paper rather slowly. And if the paper's at all wet, it is in danger of tearing. So try to make sure it's completely dry. Tear that away. And I like doing this because it just is fun to see a crisp edge without that tape around it. All right, look at that. Isn't that fun? It's almost as fun as bubble wrap, popping bubble wrap. Okay, there we go. There's our little sky paintings. So another fun thing I like to do is put a little mat around my painting. This is just a 5x7 I have hanging out in my studio, and just look what it looks like cropped. And you might find that you want to crop it and hang it in a group of other sky studies. It's really fun to look at it in that way. Anyway, thanks for watching, you guys. I hope you liked this video, and I hope you go out and try it yourself. So don't forget to hit subscribe if you do like what you see here and you want to see more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.